Hello everybody, we are back again with another Infinite Lagrange tutorial video. Today we are going to be talking about a relatively new feature known as the Subfleet. This will be a little bit of a departure from other videos I have done where I've been new player focused, because I feel that this feature needs excellent explanation for players, and unfortunately there just isn't that much out there on it, outside of the official Discord channels and of course videos by Damfire and company. So I wanted to go a little more in depth than what some of those discussions have done, and hopefully explain to people what the subfleet is and what its benefits and risks are. So, to start out, we're going to talk a little bit of background. What is a subfleet? Now, if you have not seen Damfire's video on this topic, I strongly encourage you to go check him out. He has done an excellent breakdown on the first parts of it and the basics. But to recap, a subfleet is just like a fleet you have here in your base, except for instead of the home of that fleet being your base, it is instead one of your structures. Now this can be your mining platform, as you see I have the deploy button here, or it could be an outpost or any other structure that you have built. Now the subfleet is unlocked all the way up here in Zone 6. Give me just a second to get there. In the Subfleet Command Center. This will let you have one subfleet, and with that, the CP total of your base effectively increases by 300 to 400 depending on a few things. At zone level 9, you unlock the second command center, which gives you a second fleet. Now, one thing that I'm going to go ahead and note, the command points, the CP that you can put into a subfleet, is based on your base's command point limit. This means the field command center, which gives you a 10 CP increase per level, will affect not just the fleets in your base, but also your subfleets. In effect, it triples the effect of the field command center, which is very important. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, subfleets. What are their limitations? Well, for starters, you have to build a fleet. So like I have Pellicos here, a fleet of just random, not really random, but destroyers and anti-air stuff and other shenanigans. It is 358 out of 360 command points, which is my current limit. I can take this, and as you see, I have 1050 out of 1050 for my base. I can take this fleet, go to one of my outposts, and deploy it. It will take a minute or so for my fleet to arrive, but you'll notice the moment I hit deploy, the fleet enters warp. So moving a fleet from your base to a sub-base, a sub-fleet, is very quick. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at a few things and talk about a few things while that's traveling. So I have 1050 on my base military port, and I have 88 out of 92 for aircraft. Subfleets, when they are deployed to a structure, they do not take up any command points for your base, so for your military port, or for your aircraft, which is kind of bonkers, to be honest. So in effect, you could make a fleet full of all of your strongest aircraft and deploy it as a subfleet, and then still have all of your base. Now, I don't necessarily recommend doing that, but you could do something like that. Subfleets can be reinforced just like a normal fleet can. So you'll see here, once it arrives, can't do it yet, I will have the option to move this from my outpost and reinforce it. We'll show that in just a second here. Now, if you'll see here, my fleet gains an icon, this little icon right here, To the best of my knowledge, this icon means that it is deployed as a subfleet. I don't know why this fleet has one, but it does. I think it's because I used this as a reinforcement fleet for a subfleet. But now, when I go to transfer, I have my fleets in my base, but I also have this fleet at my outpost. And it will transfer just like a normal fleet. It is hidden until you send it out. Your opponent does not know that this is here until he either attacks this outpost or you choose to launch the fleet. Now that I have launched the fleet, you can see I can reinforce it. I have 5 slots just like everywhere else. I do not know for certain if being docked on a base node that gives +4 to the number of reinforcements will affect that or not. I think there's one around here somewhere that someone might have. But I don't know if that works on the subfleet reinforcements, but I have to believe it does because the reinforcements are coming from your base and not from the outpost. But that remains for me to see. I don't have access to a +4 node at the moment. They're all in use for the war. So when we go take a look at the outpost, once I've deployed a subfleet, you can see that this is the fleet. It tells you right where that fleet is located. We're going to go ahead and recall the fleet. When you hit retreat, it will go back to the outpost or mining platform or whatever structure you are using. It will not go back to your base, and this is very important. Once you have the fleet here, you can take a look at it docked. You can repair it just like you could at your base. The ships at a subfleet will repair. If they had taken damage, they will repair when at an outpost like this, just like they would in your base. I have been told that there is a difference in the speed that they repair slightly slower. However, I've also been told that this is only the case when you don't have the correct structure in your base. I am unfortunately not the kind of person who will build a ship that I don't have the ability to build unless I need it for something. And this server being a relatively peaceful server, that wasn't the case. So I unfortunately already had everything unlocked. So I can't test it on this server. Maybe Damfire or someone else can test whether or not they repair at full speed. But you can use tokens. You can give them the blue chips and use those to instantly speed up things. So that's kind of nice. The fleets that have been deployed, like this one, no longer count towards your base. So we will go ahead and show that. So you see here now I'm down to 692 out of 1050. Now I can go ahead and build whatever I want for ships and aircraft. See, I dropped on aircraft too. It is worth noting, if you build more ships from your base than you have spots, meaning counting your subfleet, and the subfleet dies, or the base that it's attached to dies, or you relocate to that outpost, the subfleet is lost. Subfleets will attempt, if they are destroyed in combat, if subfleet fights and dies, the ones that retreat back to the outpost and will repair just like they would your base. Those that are destroyed will be destroyed just like at your base. However, if you try to retreat a fleet back to your base and you do not have enough military points to actually put it into your base, you get this message. Which one is it? No, maybe I don't have the message. I guess it got deleted. Well, okay, I guess the game deleted the message, which is really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. Maybe I can... I'll put a link to the screenshot in this video's description. But you will get a message if you relocate to the base or the base is destroyed or whatever and you don't have enough space to take the fleet back that says, hey, you don't have enough military points, so the fleet self-destructed, which is kind of silly. I personally believe that the fleet should recycle itself instead, the same way that you would recycle any other ships. But I guess it adds a level of risk and downside in exchange for the power that you get um, by having subfleets. Yeah, that's so weird that there's no email. There was an email last night when I was looking, and I didn't think I deleted it. Alright, so what can you do with a subfleet? Well, they work exactly the same as fleets from your base. This means that if you have an org operation down, you can delegate a subfleet to that org operation. You can attack structures, guard, reinforce, do all the things that you could normally do, which is pretty darn handy. For newer players like myself, although I hesitate to call myself newer anymore, but relatively new players, this means that you could probably field every single ship that you have unlocked. So as you saw there, I sent that fleet to my my outpost, and I am going to now use the empty command points that I have to build a whole bunch more aircraft of various types. There are specific ones that I am looking for. For example, we're going to go ahead and build up all of my cellular defenders again. And these S9 levies. Build some Jaeger. And if I did my math right, that should be fine. Alright. So, fleets in a subfleet allow you to have artificially an extra 300 or 600 or more, depending on your upgrades, ships. Now, there is an argument that I've heard in various discords on whether it is best to have the +4 reinforcement node on your fleets, or if it is better to pick up one of these nodes. If I can, there we go. This node gives the CP in a fleet +10, +15, plus whatever. I can't remember what the largest one is. I personally don't know which would be best. I feel if you have a +15 to your fleet, and it works the way I think it does, so that it's +15 to your main fleet and to your alternate fleets, that can be particularly powerful if you don't have a lot of battle cruisers and things to reinforce with. Because realistically, by giving yourself an extra 1 to 2 fleets with the subfleets, you should be able to field upwards of 6 or 7 fleets of 300 CP or so. This means if you were to reinforce those fleets, you would need 30 or so, 30 to 40, whatever, aircraft, or not aircraft, sorry, battle cruisers or carriers for those fleets. And that's a pretty tall order, particularly for a newer player. It can be very, very difficult to have enough command point or enough tech points on your bigger ships. Like, case in point, I have a combined 24 tech points on my 2 carriers. That's it. And I just got this 10 literally the other night from a spare module that was a garbage module, and I decided I wanted the tech points more than I wanted the module because of how early in the game I am. I felt that it would be beneficial. But even on ships where you do have a lot of tech points, it can be problematic if you deploy all your ships into a subfleet. Now, something that I have looked into, and I do not know if it's a bug or a feature or what, is instances where you have multiple ships. We're going to go to my Taurus here. Multiple ship types, and you build a ship like this one, right? 99 tech points put into it. You fill a fleet, you deploy that fleet as a subfleet, and you leave that fleet sitting outside of its base. You then go into your blueprint and you unspec all the points from your ship. You unspec them and regain all your tech points to be reused, and you put them into the other variant. This allows you to have a subfleet that has all those tech points and bonuses, and a main fleet that will likewise have all those tech points and bonuses. Now, the moment that subfleet returns to dock, it will lose its benefits, of course. But that doesn't really matter because subfleets, the best way I have found to use them is as throwaways. The most impactful subfleets that I have come up with are ones like the Pelagos that I have here. That is to say, I put in anti-aircraft logistical destroyer to keep everything alive, right? Lots of anti-air. I put in throwaway aircraft carrier with fighters that are guaranteed to eventually die. Can't show them here, I don't think, because, yeah, but you can't access the fighter hangar, it looks like, in the subfleet. But this has 10 Mistrals in it. It should be my Sandrake or Spores, but I messed up, and that's fine. I don't really care at the moment. I can fix it later. And then I have some Pulse Cannon Tauruses, some Assault Tauruses. It actually should be only one and not the other, but again, I messed up making this, and that's fine. And a bunch of Aladabras. They can just die. It doesn't matter. They're for tanking. And more anti-air and flagship. And this is kind of where I can abuse the tech point thing. The Winged Hussar has a lot of very powerful bonuses as a command ship. You have increased hit rates to your fighters, evasion. You have the two different command bonuses here. You have firing calibration, which just gives all Antonios ships up to 10% chance to deal 160% additional damage to aircraft, which is absurd. And then, of course, the base, this one, which gives an extra hit rate to aircraft and anti-aircraft weaponry. On a ship like the Hussar anti-aircraft, which has all these bonuses that give huge critical strike bonus damage to anti-aircraft, doubles your anti-aircraft damage. Like, this thing literally does like 5,000 anti-aircraft DPM. It says 1,500, but that's not true. It's actually like 5,000. I could take a ship like this. I could dump 100 tech points into it, and then deploy it in a subfleet, and pull those points out, and put them in a ship I actually would field in a normal fleet, such as the anti-ship. Granted, I wouldn't really probably field the anti-ship, but let's just say I did for the sake of argument. You know, the anti-ship with its big Corellian cannon can actually hit pretty hard against bigger ships. So it's useful. Before subfleets, the Hussar anti-aircraft would be in your fleet. After they buffed anti-aircraft weapons, the Hussar anti-aircraft would be in one of your main fleets. Maybe the flagship, maybe not, but it would probably be using up military points in a fleet. Now you can just have this anti-aircraft monstrosity in a subfleet and don't care about it. It's cheap, it's fast, it's easy to produce. And with it and the other Antonios ships, such as the Mistrals in the series, the Guardian itself, which gets the bonus, I now have a fleet that costs me very little resources, can be rebuilt very quickly, and I can just throw it at my opponent. Combat breaks out, I will attack them with this. Maybe it's the flank, maybe it's the primary tank, who cares? It will strip the enemy of aircraft and then die. And that's fine. Recalling fleets that are subfleets, recalling them is fairly simple. You just go to the building in question, click on the fleet, click the little icon in the lower right hand corner here, and you pick which ships you want to send back. It is important to note one thing, and that is that when you retreat fleets or retreat ships from a subfleet, it still costs you the same amount of CP, whether it's one ship. So 3 ships here, it costs 40 AP. 5 ships still cost 40 AP. All the ships still cost 40 AP. And it tells you this is how much military points you have at your base. This is how much it's going to add. The oh, you can't see my mouse, but the 1050 up here is how many you have, and then the green number is how many it's going to add to your base. So very important to check that before you remove a fleet. You can repair, or not repair, you can reinforce, not the correct term. You can add ships to your subfleet by going to the outpost in question, clicking deploy, and then it shows you what you have currently. Oh, there we go. Now you can see the mistrals. Shows you what you have currently. You just choose deploy ship or aircraft, depending on what you're trying to do, and you pick the ships that you're going to send. Now, of course, my fleet is full, so I can't do that, but if it wasn't, I could just add a ship. And then that ship will warp to the outpost, to the mining platform, to whatever, and join the subfleet. So don't think that you can only send it once and then that's it. That is not the case. As long as you have space, you can just re-up the fleet as much as you want. This can be kind of expensive on the AP side of things, so I do hesitate to recommend it unless, you need to make a dramatic change to a subfleet. Like you lose all your aircraft and it's an aircraft subfleet, then maybe it would be worthwhile to do. I do believe that about covers it. As mentioned, subfleets can do everything that a normal fleet can do, including surgical strikes and the like. So it can be particularly handy if you build an outpost somewhere, like you have a lot of battle cruisers, carriers, things like that you want to keep hidden and safe. You could build an outpost somewhere on the far edges of the map, and if you know that your shield's going to go down and your hive's going to get wiped out, something like that, you deploy your big expensive fleet of ships to that outpost. Because it enters warp, your enemy cannot stop it the way that they could if you were to try and transfer your fleet somewhere. They could stop you with a blockade. They cannot do that by doing this. And so you could potentially save 2 full fleets of your big expensive carriers, battle cruisers, force auxiliaries if you're crazy, I suppose, and the like. I believe that about wraps it up for subfleets. I hope you guys found this video informative. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments as always. Hopefully the audio on this one is a little bit better than my previous videos. I am not recording it at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I don't have to be as quiet for my sleeping fiance. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.